Right. Welcome to this kind of interim emergency SitRep, as it were. Obviously, unless you've been hiding under a rock, you be well aware that right now Russia has invaded Ukraine. They've actually declared war on Ukraine. So this is a pretty big deal. Hey, everyone on the Instagram chat here. Hey, Commie Hunter. Hey, everyone on the YouTubes as well. Okay, so, yep, Putin declared war on Ukraine earlier today. It was this afternoon in Australian time. So currently it's 8:10 in the PM, Australian Eastern Standard Time. It was just before dawn local time in Ukraine, where there was actually that war designation came out. Cool. Is Kenzie went and filled the car up and filled jerry can like I recommended. Excellent. I did chuck a little story out there saying that you should probably think about going filling your car up if you haven't already. I certainly went and did that. All right, a lot of questions coming in. I'll get to that. I'm just going to try and belt through this as quickly as possible, and then we'll get to all the questions. Heaps of really good questions coming in, and I understand like it's a pretty confusing time. Those who didn't catch my SitRep this morning, essentially what I said, there's 3 courses of action that I feel that Russia could have. The most likely, as I picked it, which was probably the safer version of what was going to happen, that they would continue doing what they're doing piecemeal, picking away, and kind of consolidating what they had and then disrupting, picking away, moving in, consolidating like they have done in the past. The second course of action I said is that they will come in all guns blazing, and that could lead to the third course of action, which is uncontrolled war, which could spill out into other nations. So right now we're in the in that second scenario. They have come in all guns blazing by all accounts, and everything that I can see. I mean, there's a lot of reports that are wildly inaccurate, but I'm actually watching a lot of the videos. I'm getting verified sources on this where I can, and it does look like they have actually invaded, attacked, and destroyed a lot of military targets within Ukraine. So they are coming in all guns blazing, and they're not doing it from one direction. They're doing it from every single direction that they can. So they're coming from north, from Belarus. They're coming from south, both landing parties from the ocean and from the Crimea. And then they are doing it from the east, where there's been fighting for a few days now. Just checking. I'll just try and keep my head into this chat as well and make sure I'm keeping up with everyone. Yep, definitely. So I will get to this. We're talking about China there in the chat, and I will get to that in a second. All right, so we've seen missile strikes on military air targets predominantly. That was the first thing that they targeted. They targeted air force bases within Ukraine. Pretty tactically sound maneuver from Russia, trying to take out their air assets or their ability to put planes in the air, and then they can roll in. And there are reports of columns already moving in, because by most accounts that I've seen, they have destroyed or have incapacitated at least most Air Force bases within Ukraine. Something else that is just other random sort of news that's going on that's important for the entire picture, because what I'm mainly concerned about now is this doesn't slip into that third scenario that I was talking about, where we get all-out war. And there are some indicators that that's kind of looking likely. So on that, I've also got another screen here, and I'm monitoring stuff here, like stock market things and different news channels here. So if you see me get distracted over here, it's just that. Don't worry. Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, and Estonia, who, like, if you have a look at a map and your name's not Pelosi, you actually figure out what the world is like and where countries are sitting, you will see that they're very interlinked in this entire fracas that's going on at the moment. They've just called on Article 4 of NATO, which it's it's not a massive deal. It's not a huge thing, but it is a pretty big step. So, Article 4 is essentially saying, actually, I can probably read that out if I haven't just knocked out everything. I do have it up here. Article 4 within NATO states that the parties will consult together whenever, in the opinion of any of them, the territorial integrity, political independence, or security of any of the parties are threatened. So, for those who don't know what NATO is all about, it's an alliance of nations, and it says if any of us get attacked, it is essentially an attack on everyone. So, if Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, or Estonia got attacked in any way, it would be the same as the US being attacked, or UK being attacked, or France being attacked. Any of the NATO members there, Germany, it would be tantamount to 9/11, and it was actually 9/11, the NATO agreement, that caused 9/11 to be a worldwide sort of issue, in that when 9/11 happened, US called on not only Article 4 but Article 5, which is the next step up, which is a big deal. So if it moves into that Article 5 space, then we're going to see a lot of nations actually like stepping in and going. It'll be another Afghanistan essentially. That's what Afghanistan was about, and that's actually the only time Article 5 has ever been used within NATO. So that's what we could be looking at. And myself, as a veteran of Afghanistan, that was one of the longest wars. I mean, it was the longest war that Australia's ever been involved with. So, you can kind of see the importance that's happening there with taking that step towards Article 5. Hopefully my phone doesn't die. I'm actually on low batteries here. All right, I'll crack on. Migrants at the moment are pouring into Poland. So Poland is freaking out a little bit about this. They are getting a lot of border crossings happening at the moment. So this is something that we need to look at. We saw with those eastern states, the LPR and the DPR, we saw hundreds of thousands, like that's what was being reported, hundreds of thousands of people pouring into Russia. So now we're seeing them go the other way now. Apparently there's roadblocks out of Kiev right now. Yep, I get that it's cutting out. Hopefully I'm still there. Let me try and plug some things in and see if we can get more of a solid sound. Wires. Please excuse my technical difficulties. Ooh. Of course, there is no USB-C port on this. Bear with me. All right, guys, I'm just going to jump back out and try and reset my camera and get it closer to where the actual port is so I can plug it in. So bear with me for a sec and I'll be back in uno momento. Apologies if you're watching on YouTube at the moment. Always have a backup, guys. Always have a backup. All right. Hopefully people can hear me now. If you cannot, if you're still struggling to hear me, let me know. Just wait for people to pour back in to this. If anyone who's just jumped in can let me know if you can hear me clearly and if the video is coming through all right. Excellent. Thank you. Which actually leads to the next point. And I apologize now about YouTube because I'm going to be not looking at your camera pretty much at all. We've had a number of things. So Telegram apparently is totally out in Ukraine. And there is a number of people within Australia who are talking about all sorts of things. So one of my good friends, if you have been following along with the lives at all, you'd know that InstaChick, chat with her quite often. She said Vodafone actually went down today. One of our other friends was talking about how they couldn't get onto news.com.au, and Sky News actually feeds went down. So, technical difficulties could just be technical difficulties, but also like we could be actually getting a lot of cyber attack stuff happening at the moment. It's probably the best way that I can put it, that there is definitely a huge wave of cyber attacks that are happening throughout the Ukraine, but that will not be limited to the Ukraine. We'll be copying that as well, especially since our illustrious leader came out and said, yep, we're going to sanction you as well. That also paints a target on our back as Australians. So be aware of that. That's going to come as well. So if I cut out again, just blame the Russians or Scott Morrison. Okay, other news that's just come in. Kharkiv has fallen, apparently. I can't get a second source on this. I got one source, which is pretty good, said that Kharkiv has fallen, which is north. It's the second largest city, by the way, in the Ukraine. So it's kind of a big deal. Landing ships have landed at Odessa and at Mariupol, and there's explosions in Mariupol. So they're two southern port cities, one on the western side, one on the eastern side of Ukraine. So, and like there is so much information coming in about what's happening in the Ukraine at the moment. Like I cannot physically keep up with it all, and so I'll miss huge amounts of it. But I just want to give you that snapshot of what's happening. There is an invasion going on there. Russia is doing that second thing that I thought they would do, where they're actually quite aggressively moving in. So that's apparently what's happening on the ground. Lithuania too just announced that they're going into a state of emergency. So that's another thing that we need to start looking at, because, like I said, those other states, that Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, and Estonia, they're members of Nato. So it is a huge deal if anything happens there. That's the sort of thing. That's when scenario 3 that I was talking about earlier today, that's when that's going to kick off. And it's going to drag everyone in. Yep, I was actually, Kerry just said, I was looking at the city today, all looked normal except military bases were hit. So there was a lot of reporting that Kiev was being hit and that this city was getting hit and blah, blah, blah. And I was watching them. I was watching the live feeds for a few hours today, sort of going, I can't see this. And I was trying to switch cameras around, looking at a whole heap of different things. And there was just nothing there. So we do have to be we do have to be wary of this misinformation that's going to be coming out about this. At the moment, Russia has said that they are not attacking any civilian targets, only military targets. And I mean, what they say and what they do are sometimes two different things, but I have not seen them actively go after civilian targets. There has been collateral damage that I've seen, unverified, but there's been collateral damage there. But definitely military targets have been hit. That is, the Ukraine even came out and said that they've been battling Russians. So yeah, keep your eye on that. But at this stage, they haven't attacked Kiev or any of the major cities, apart from parts that they actually need, like ports and airports. seaports, airports, and military bases. That's mainly what they've been targeting at this stage, apparently. All right, so I'm just going to switch gears here and go into markets for a second. So I've got a few of the markets up here, and it's not pretty. If you've got money in the stock markets, like, I shouldn't laugh. It's not going to be good. And if you've got money in crypto, then I'm sorry. Right now, today, things might turn around. But all right, here we go. The big one, Russian market. I just checked before I went live. It's down 37%. Okay, by any form of indicator that we've ever had, we usually put it at about 10% being a sustained 10% being a recession, and quick, rapid 10%, or maybe you could even say 9, maybe 8% is a crash. 37% of the Russian stock market is gone, disappeared. All right, ASX 200, 3% down. The Dow, 1.38. Well, I don't even know. I'm looking at some of these graphs here, and they look insane. Like, I'm seeing spikes and I'm seeing drop-offs. The FTSE, which is UK now, down 2.3. Nikkei down 1.8. These are all continuing to drop too. So UK, the FTSE opened just a couple of hours ago. The other ones have sort of closed. So Australia's obviously closed. So yeah, NASDAQ down 2.57. What else we got? German market down 3%. Yeah, everything's down 2 to 3%. So a lot of stuff falling here. Okay, cryptocurrencies. I'm really sorry if you got a lot of money in cryptocurrencies. This is going to hurt. There's a lot of red in here. Like, it's burning up. The big one probably, I would say, is Ethereum and Cardano. Ethereum's down 12% now. Bitcoin's down 8%. Bitcoin's just dropped below 50. That's a big deal. 50K. It's gone down below 50K. Yeah, Cardano, XRP, Solana, all of it. Dogecoin, Shibu, everything is down, pretty much. There's a couple that are going okay, but everything's down, big time. And then on the other end of the spectrum, let's talk about commodities for a sec. So, no surprise here. Yep, gold and silver for the win. That Institute, you are correct. I'll get to that in a sec, though. Soybean oil up 5.75%. Natural gas about the same. Oil, Brent crude 5.43, and it has gone over $100 a barrel. Yep, so that's up there. And so if you didn't catch my little story today, I said, hey, oil is spiking. It is shooting up, and that doesn't mean that the price at the Bowser will go up, but historically, Australia, the biggest rip-off turds that there are, as soon as that price goes up, they'll put their prices up at the Bowser, even if it has nothing to do with them. So fill your tanks. That's what I've been saying all afternoon. Go fill your tanks. Go fill a Jerry. And some people have got back to me and said that they have. So that's really good news. Okay, gold and silver. Gold just went over 2,700 an ounce. So what are we looking at here? That's Aussie dollars. So it is at 1946, so $1,946 per ounce US dollars. Just to give you a heads up, the highest it has ever been is 2,068 for a second, but it around that 2,000 mark. That's like the hard ceiling where everyone's like, gold doesn't go over 2,000. Well, we're about $40. Yeah, we're about $60, $54 about off it going over that $2,000 mark, and and probably staying up there for a little while. So Yep, nice. A few people saying that they filled up tonight. Good work. Excellent. All right, silver too is in US dollars. It is at 25. It's broken over that 25 mark, which is a bit of a barrier. That 25 mark for those who are in the silver game. If you're silver stackers out there, it has gone over 25, and it's gone over 25 by a little bit, sort of up towards 30. It's never really broken 30. I don't think it's broken 30. It might have touched 30 once at some brief stage last year, but it's up over 25, so it's pretty high too. So that's what's going on in finance at the moment, guys. Oil and a lot of crops and the gas prices was obvious. I mean, I was saying that for a while, and if I'm saying stuff about finance stuff, I'm like, I mean, I do watch this sort of stuff, but I'm not the fastest or the sharpest tool in the shed when it comes to finance stuff. So if I'm saying it, like, it's pretty obvious, I think. So yeah, and the solid, the gold, the silver, those tangible assets, they're a classic safe haven for when people are freaking out, when there's fear in the world, uncertainty. People put their money into gold, and that's exactly what we're seeing. People are really uncertain at the moment. People are freaking out, obviously, and to a certain extent, maybe with good reason. But yeah, the rest of the stock markets, I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. Crypto, I've got no idea. I mean, that thing can bounce. I've seen it happen before. I've seen crypto like take these huge hits, and then 2-3 days later, it's gained it all back. So crypto's, gold's based on gold, silver's based on silver. There's machinations of supply and demand that are actually going on there in real world tangible assets for everything else. But when it comes to crypto, it's based on hopes and wishes and dreams and unicorn farts. I don't know what it's based on really, but it could be anything. So it could come back. I'm not certainly saying like get rid of it's done, but yeah, you might as well sit on it now if you've lost it. But I've got a couple of friends who've lost out big in the last 24 hours on that. But you only lose when you cash out, right? So. So Zelensky addressing Ukraine live right now. I can't see that. So if anyone can give me updates on what he's saying there, that would be really handy. How many active personnel does Russia have anyways? I can't remember the numbers, but it like outclasses Ukraine like by a ridiculous amount. So there's something called the World Army or the World Military Force Ranking System. There's actually some nifty little name for it that I can never recall, but essentially like they rank the world's armies, and Russia is actually sitting still at number 2 on that. Just to give you a bit of a concept of how big their military force is, what their might is, and what they can muster. And that's what we know too about Russia. They have a tendency of keeping things pretty close to the chest. Forces like the US, the Western sort of forces, pretty fair, open countries or nations. People argue with that right now, but that's beside the point right now, is that a lot of our stuff is out there and you can see it, and we are very open about what we have and what we don't have. But nations like China and Russia won't always say what exactly they have. And that could go either way though. Like Russia could be, using smoke and mirrors right now to make it seem like they've got a huge force that they can muster when maybe they can't. I don't know. Yep. Ukraine will lose, unfortunately. Yep. Ukraine versus Russia. I never doubted that there would be any. There's no doubt in my mind that Ukraine's going to get up and win that. If it's just a straight out fight between Russia and Ukraine, then I can't see Ukraine winning it. I just don't know. I feel really bad, like terrible for the Ukrainian people right now. That's the real tragedy in this whole thing, and it always has been, that this entire kind of world dick swinging game is going on of power battles and people trying to, one up each other, and it's the Ukraine that's just going to get hammered in the middle of it. Ukraine does have a lot of reservists, a massive amount of reservists. Whether they can mobilize and arm them and train them appropriately is another question, though. All right, so I'll try and answer some questions now. I'll get onto questions. I've opened up some questions on on Instagram earlier, and I'll get to them. And I'll just try and also monitor this chat here. How long do you see this playing out for? Like I said, I think this, like Russia, if they're very controlled, very focused in what they do, they could get in and do what they're going to do in Ukraine. And if they somehow don't spill it outside of Ukrainian borders, then we could potentially see this wrap up relatively soon for a war. Likewise, we could see this extended out for a very long time. And if it spills out, then all bets are off. Who knows what's going to happen? All right. Australia only has 85k personnel. You need to bump those numbers up. Sorry, that's my Matthew McConaughey impersonation. It was not good. Yeah, I mean, Australia doesn't have a huge army. That's no secret. We have a well-trained army, our full-time forces, but not a big one. All right, so some of the questions that came in, I'll just start chucking out these. How's the Japanese whiskey going? Which one did you get? Good question. I'm not drinking the Japanese whiskey right now, but I actually bought Nika Super Rare. Great whiskey. If anyone likes Japanese whiskey, it's a good one. All right. Is Russia a distraction? If so, from what? Yes and no. Right. Like, this whole thing is its own thing and its own important thing that we need to put our minds to and watch what happens, because it's going to play out on a global scale and it will have effects on us. What is it also a distraction? Yeah, quite possibly. In fact, reports are now coming out that China may have mobilized towards Taiwan, but that's unconfirmed at this point. But what is confirmed is they put out from their foreign minister in a presser said something to the effect of, you shouldn't, Taiwan, that word should not be used. This is all part of our nation, about the entire one China nation policy. So basically saying the words of kind of what Russia was doing a couple of days ago, where they were laying that groundwork through what they say of the invasion. So they're laying the groundwork for invasion through what they say. So China has been doing that with Taiwan. That was this afternoon. So if they are mobilizing towards Taiwan, it's no shock to me. And perhaps they were waiting for this to happen. So this could be the distraction from that. Apart from that, what else could it be a distraction for? You name it. I don't know. Put your tinfoil hat on. Go for any conspiracy you want. It's the reptilian overlords. I don't know. It's the World Economic Forum takeover. It's it could be anything. But I try not to deal off what the coulds are, all those sort of more wilder theories. I'm trying to look at what's playing out on the ground and figure out how that affects us now here, and best prepare for that. Time for me to come out of retirement, mate. I'm too old. When a general in full uniform flies in a chopper to my wilderness location, my bug out location, and gets out and, Gads, we need you back, like 80s style, then I'll come back. But not until then. And everything has to be 80s style for me. That was the peak of civilization as far as I'm concerned. Best music, best movies, the 80s. Best people, it's me. All right, Chinese invading Australia. Thoughts? Well, I just mentioned that Chinese situation that we're looking at right now. Could it potentially lead to Chinese invading Australia? That's a big call. Australia is a huge country, so you need to be specific about what you're thinking about with invasion here. Could they come into cities and take over from there? Yes, or specific cities, possibly. They would need a very good reason to do that, though. Potentially, China has a very good reason for that, and it's resources. We have them, they want them. No, we have them, they need them. And if this starts to play out, this is my crazy mind playing out here. China moving in towards Taiwan, US going, that's not cool. Us being tied to the US going, okay, yep, also not cool. So now we're in war against you, and bank sanctions. So we're not giving you anything anymore. Then China will sort of turn their eyes towards us, a big breadbasket down in the south here, and go like, well, if you're not going to give it to us, we might come take it. So there is, I guess, a potential of it happening. But what I just said is like kind of future stuff. And in the fog of war, who knows what's going to happen? Like anything can happen. We're entering into a period right now where things are becoming far more unpredictable, as far as I'm concerned. And you can feel free to argue that point with me if you want, but that's how I think it is. War legislation is worse than pandemic legislation, perfect for great reset to occur. So that's probably another idea that we're thinking about with this distraction thing, this great reset idea. If you don't know what it's about, go Google it, or read the book that dude wrote, whatever his name is. I don't pay much attention to him. But this is one of the reasons that I'm always saying become ungovernable and become your own supermarket, become your own Federal Reserve or Reserve Bank. Link your own financial wealth to physical things. Try to become as self-sustaining or self-resilient or self-reliant as you possibly can. Then to a certain extent, like, you still have to worry about this sort of stuff, but the effect on you is going to be lessened. So that's kind of why I'm saying all these things. We'll be unable to defend ourselves if our oil importers burn down. A lot of oil refineries on fire at the moment. Yeah, I mean, like Australia, we source now 90% of our oil, or refined oil, from overseas. So we send it offshore. We used to have a number of refineries here in Australia, and we've gotten rid of them for some reason. Well, for financial reasons. So yeah, we are reliant on overseas sources, and those overseas sources, if you go and have a look at them, they're all up north of us on islands, and well, some mainland places, but they're all very close to the big dragon sitting up there. So that's not good. We have the most poisonous snakes in the world. We use them against them. Yeah. China owns our ports. So China doesn't own all our ports. China has they got a 99-year lease on Darwin. That is actually being discussed in government at the moment with defence. And they're trying to decide whether Australia should actually renege on that. And like, I am in the camp that I think we should probably renege on that. Even though it could create more tensions, I think it actually alleviates a huge hole we have in our defenses right now. It might not seem like a big deal, like Darwin sitting up there. It's so far away from the rest of Australia. We are blessed by the distance that we have in Australia. That's actually part of our defense plan. But if they were to establish some sort of base in Darwin, then like they can move anywhere from there. And there's rail lines that cut the country that they'd be able to move through. So that would not be good. We should probably think about getting rid of that. Do you think other countries will get involved in Ukraine? That's really hard to say. Most of the neighboring countries are NATO. So if they get involved, then it's going to they're well aware that it's going to drag a lot more into it than just them stepping in. I think. Well, I mean, countries are getting involved in it, in sanctions and things like that. Other countries are starting to talk. We saw Pakistan fly into Russia, or the President Khan fly over to Russia to have talks over there. So maybe they're going to tie in there. Maybe Romania sort of area. We don't really know what's going on. Well, I don't really know what's going on there. Maybe somebody else can give me more information about that. But as in boots on the ground, not at this point. But like I said, we're entering into a phase where the future potentialities are starting to open up now, where we're looking restricted. Now, Russia has just blown the door open and anything can happen. All right. There was an observation which was pretty correct from someone here, that they were looking at Snapchats and it all looked normal in Ukraine. Again, I think like within where population centers are, it was still going relatively normal this afternoon at least. Military bases though and military targets looked like they were being attacked. If Oz was to get involved, how long before whoever would invade, if that's possible? Again, how long is a piece of string? Who knows? If you had to said at the start of World War II, what would Japan do? Like, almost nobody said they'd fly over and attack Pearl Harbor. That was like not a thing. And then they did it. And then the speed and violence at which they moved through their area, even down to Australia, up to Papua New Guinea, was shocking. It was absolutely mind-boggling at the time. So, we can sit there and go like, well, nobody would invade Australia forever. No one would ever do that, or at least not for 2 years, or maybe 3 months or something. But China's got plans upon plans upon plans, and they've been thinking about this for decades. They don't plan in election cycles like we do. They're not trying to appease a tiny fractions of populations and get votes so they can swing certain electorates. They're not worried with all that. That's irrelevant to them. So they're thinking like 20, 25 years, 50 years, 100 years, and they're thinking about, okay, how do things go? There was a reason that China started to pull resources back into them recently. Well, we found out about it recently. They were probably doing it for a lot longer. There's a reason why Russia and China have stockpiled gross amounts of the world's wheat and corn and soy in their countries, like horrific amounts, over 70% by some estimates of the world's stockpile of wheat or crops are in one of these two countries. They are working on a much longer timeline, and they're not worried about a lot of the things that a lot of people in our Western countries seem to be worried about at the moment. And there was a little bit of a discussion on that in there, stuff about pronouns and social justice and things like that. That none of that matters to them. They're authoritarian, they're dictatorships, they're communist countries or come from communist country. So they don't care about any of this. That's irrelevant to them. All right, I'm just checking on news.com again. As I'm talking, I'm getting like messages pop down all the time here, and I just can't keep up with them. So there's probably a lot of information that's coming on, but I did want to cut it at some point because I do want to go to bed tonight at some stage. Do a report here, and this is the state of play as it is at this point. That Instachick asked, can you help people get properly prepped and assess their levels of readiness? Well, yes, actually, I'm glad you asked. I can. It's one of the things I offer. I teach this sort of stuff for a living. This is what I do. I also do phone calls with people, either with individuals or with groups, with mag groups I've done in the past, helping people sort of maybe organize or look at it from an outsider perspective, or somebody who's been doing this for a fair while now, and somebody who has bounced in and around war zones for a couple of decades now, war zones, disaster zones, all this sort of stuff. So I've seen what happens when civilizations collapse. I've seen what happens when society goes sideways. I've seen what happens in war, and I've seen what happens when people actually need to rely on themselves and not so much their government or their forces or the systems that they have linked to them. So if any of that feels like it would be handy to you, then feel free to reach out. You can check out Ragnarok, ragnaroksurvival.com.au. Or just get me on the Insta, get me on the YouTube in the comments. We've also got Telegram chats channels going on there. So Ragnarok Survival is one of them, and the other one is MAG Australia, Mutual Assistance Group Australia, MAG Australia. It's not anything to do with like Trump or anything. It's just Mutual Assistance Group Australia, and what we're trying to do there is help people create communities, come together, because this is the big thing about these sort of periods. It's not like just pack your bug out bag and go lone wolf. You really have to think about those people around you, those in your community, how you can help best support each other, help each other out, share the load, share the cost of a lot of things like that. So definitely check out those Telegram sites. Will war have any effect on interest rates and or real estate, do you think? I do think it will, in that okay, so we're going to have supply chain disruptions of a magnitude that is greater than what we already have, which was pretty big. Supply chain actually forces inflation. Inflation can be affected by interest rates. So will it affect interest rates going up and down? Yes, most likely. I think it will. Will it have an effect on real estate? Well, that flows on from that. Available money that people have, the ability to borrow. When interest rates go up, borrowers lessen, like the amount of borrowers generally lessen, and people go into savings. So you've got those there's two kinds of people in the world, savers and borrowers, and you need to keep them sort of in balance. And that's what interest rates is a mechanism of doing, generally speaking. It's also other reasons that interest rates could move. But yes, I think what we'll see is interest rates rise. They were going to rise anyway. Like they had to, they're at zero. So eventually they're going to come back up. Australia, we're still as one of the richest nations in the world, we're still insulated, and one of the resource rich countries in the world, we're still insulated from a lot of these financial effects. And I think we'll still see that occur, but there will be changes in that. What exactly they are, I can't predict. And again, I'm not a financial advisor. I feel like I'm saying that every single SitRep. No, that's all good. Yeah, if anyone's got any other information or questions or anything, feel free to pop them in, and I'll try and get onto them. So another little story just popped up. Putin is the man in charge of the world's largest nuclear arsenal. I don't know if that's actually true. I think it might be the second biggest. I have a feeling US is actually the biggest. The current state of the world rests on the shoulders of poor leadership. Not a question, but a comment. Yeah, yep. I think back. I look at. I love to study history, and especially looking at the war history, World War II. We look at the kind of leaders that we had then and what was going on. They're names that you could still name now, FDR and Churchill and these sort of guys. And I wonder, there's an opportunity there for people to step up into that space, for us to have really good leaders. So I really hope that they do. I really hope that somebody steps up into that space and actually takes on that mantle and helps lead the world, and hopefully helps lead it to a safer, more peaceful place. As somebody who has been involved in war, I will tell you, I'll give you the hot tip. It's not pleasant in any stretch of the imagination. It's a horrific place to be. And the idea that civilians are going to now get caught up in it is even terrible. I got caught up in it, and I was a well-trained soldier. So this idea that civilians are going to get caught up in it, it's just one of the tragedies of the world, I guess. It's, the unfairness of it all. But hopefully, yeah, we can have leaders that step up. What's my thoughts on silver? I love it. It's simple as that. I love it. I try and stack it. I think it's got a lot of room to move. It's more volatile than gold, but it's cheaper. It's easier to get into the silver game, I think, than it is to gold. It's a nice way to get into the precious metals market. Yeah, I think silver's cool. It's also used in a lot of tech as well. It's not just a precious metal. It's not just like jewelry or whatever. A lot of industrial, medical, and tech uses for silver as well. So there's a lot of space there for silver, I think, to actually go up. And I actually personally feel that silver is very repressed in its price, even though it's like gone up today. I think like it really, in my mind, I think silver should maybe be like 150 or something an ounce. So yeah, that's what I think about silver. Potential downfall of democracy with China and Russia moving around for wars. Yep. I mean, democracy is an experiment, and we've been trying it out for a little while. And there's no guarantee it's going to stick around at all, ever. So there's been no sort of really continuous form of government that has stuck around. So we can keep trying doing this democracy thing. But the only way democracy sticks around is, it kind of sounds warry, but it's with the blood of its constituents, of the people. If you want democracy, then you have to fight for it on some level. That doesn't necessarily mean go out and fight physically, but on some level you have to embody that. So could this be the downfall of democracy? I mean, it could be. Who knows what comes next either, or whether we regress to something else, or we go into, dare I say it, communism. I won't see that. I won't be sticking around for that, that's for sure. Not sure what numbers you're talking about there, Commie Hunter, 7K and 8K. Russian providing titanium for 90% of ammunition, I heard, potentially. Yep. It's not required for ammunition though. There's certain types that it will be. But yeah, I mean, the precious metal market, any metal market right now is going to go through the roof. Commodities are going up. Everything's going up there. Anything that's non-physical is potentially going to go down in the next little bit. So watch that space. All right. What time have we got? It's almost 9 o'clock. All right. Well, I'll wrap it up here, guys, unless anyone else has got any other further questions. I wasn't even paying attention to the YouTube channel here. So cards will fall like this: Ukraine, China, Syria. I wouldn't necessarily disagree with that at all. That's potentially how it could go down. But if you're saying China will fall, then interesting take on things. Possibly. Last little thing. Actually, no. I'll leave any other sort of stuff till tomorrow, till I do a SitRep on tomorrow, because I think that's enough sort of doom and gloom for one night. But again, I'll try and finish off on somewhat of a high note. Yes, this is potentially one of the most or on a knife edge or hectic points that we've had in the world in a very long time. And for those of you who haven't experienced any sort of full-on wars or anything like that, this could be very, very sort of traumatic for you, very anxious time for you. But I just want to say, like, what we need to do here, at least us, people who are listening to this and are sort of listening into these sort of things, and maybe in that prepper mindset or whatever. But we need to come together. We need to look after each other. We need to teach each other what's going on. We need to keep each other informed. We need to help each other out. So I really encourage you guys to keep doing it. Like I said, jump on those Telegram groups, especially jump on MAG Australia. There's a couple of posts on there at the moment, the latest posts, which are all different states of Australia. So if you're from one of the states and you're not in a MAG, or even if you are, post it up there in the comments of that and say like, hey, I'm here. Let's connect. Let's get together. Let's start helping each other out in the big stuff and the little stuff as well. There's still weather events happening in Australia. There's still floods going on. There's still all this sort of stuff. One of my dearest friends and a member of my MAG today, I went to his place and helped him put a tarp over a roof to secure it before the rains hit. So, this is the sort of stuff we should be doing. We should be concentrating on. Keep your eye on this sort of stuff, but don't fall down the rabbit hole of it. I was reading a bit of Friedrich Nietzsche today. One of my favorite quotes about the abyss. If you stare too long into the abyss stares back into you. And that's what can happen if you're focusing on these bad things in the world. Then you're going to end up becoming the bad thing, or letting it suck you up. Try not to do that, guys. Stay positive. We're going to get through this. We're going to be okay. The world will continue revolving. Maybe things will be different. Tomorrow morning we could wake up and things could be very different, and the day after that, and the day after that. But as long as we keep improving as human beings, we keep our head down, keep working at it, we're going to be okay. All right, one last question that just came in there. If stocking up on long life food for worst case scenario, what are some of the top foods you recommend? So I've said this a few times to people. My biggest recommendation when it comes to food and stockpiling food is, this comes from a guy called Jack Spearco, who has a podcast called The Survival Podcast. And he was actually the guy who got me in to prepping seriously, probably 12, 13 years ago when I started listening to his podcast. Eat what you store, and store what you eat. Certainly, if you feel and you have the resources to go out and buy some long life food and store that away, go and do it. Big bags of rice, massive, Costco tins of tuna and stuff like that. Do that, but just buy more of what you eat. Have more of what you eat, as long as it's not perishable. So don't have like 8 liters of milk on the go at any one time, but just cans and things like that, dry food, pastas, whatever it is that you eat, just store more of that sort of stuff, buy more of that sort of stuff. If something did happen, like a SHTF event did happen, the shock of that on your body is going to be huge. And then you double on top of that by then, you're totally changing your diet by eating freeze-dried food or like dehydrated food, or some fucking weird crap. That's going to be a massive stress on your body as well. So what we're trying to do now is plan ahead and take all the stresses out of a high threat scenario or a shit hit the fan scenario, whatever it is. All right, gang, I'm going to cut it there. That went heaps longer than I thought it would. So thank you very much for those who stuck around and listened to it. I hope you got something out of tonight's little chat. Again, didn't want it to be all doom and gloom. But keep your eye on things that are going on, keep prepping, keep yourself safe out there, no matter what happens. Keep yourself cyber safe as well, because that's a big one that's coming in, guys. Keep watching that, update your apps, update your OS systems, or whatever's going on there. But apart from that, thank you very much for listening, and I'll try and get another one up maybe tomorrow or the next day. Thanks, guys. Semper Paratus.